From the 22 News Plus studio, this is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of In Focus. I am your host, Patrick Berry. We are here in the 22 News Plus studios. Across the desk from me today is the mayor of the city of Holyoke, Joshua Garcia. Mr. Garcia, great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
For joining me. Folks, if you haven't seen or been around Holyoke in the last few years, few decades, it is completely different in a great way than what you may remember it. And Mayor Garcia and I are here to talk about a number of things that are happening in the paper city. So again, thank you again for joining me. You inherited the city of Holyoke in a pretty good place. And have you seen it gotten better under your administration? Remain flat? What are some of your visions for the future?
Yeah, and I appreciate that was the first time I hear an observation that way. I've inherited a community that was better. Thank you. Because I grew up, born and raised in the city of Holyoke. Mm-hmm. I lived through previous administrations, experiences growing up on our street, And every administration that has came on board since I was a kid has made Holyoke better, a little bit better than what it was before. And here I am now, the good fortune through the will of the people now in this position, kind of taking that baton and continue to build. It's like building blocks from what previous folks have left for me. And yes, I sit here and I confidently can tell you that Holyoke has been continuously to get better. Whether if it's in education or in public safety, our schools were in receivership. Coming in, we were able to transition out of receivership back into local control. The recent accountability scores have came out, and we've seen academic outcomes improve within the school district as a result of a lot of the different strategies that were put in play to turn our schools around as far as the turnaround plan is concerned. Public safety, I think, has improved dramatically. I have to constantly remind people where Holyoke was in the 90s.
And that's sort of why I started that way, because even when I grew up in the 70s and 80s, I look at Holyoke today as sort of a cornerstone community for the success of Western Massachusetts. It's nearly 40,000 people. It's changed, like I say, significantly in the last few decades to be a hub of economy, a hub of culture, and to your point, every previous mayor has been kind of adding that building block, and you've continued to add to that.
What I have focused on a lot in my administration, we ran a management campaign when I first ran for mayor, and we brought it back to the basics.
Right.
There was inconsistent enforcement or selective enforcement, whether if it's conditions of buildings and public property and other infractions of our local ordinances and other laws. And so we've done a lot of work in trying to just hold each other accountable as neighbors and remind the public that the community has a responsibility to. That is the basics, right? Not just look at local government and say, hey, what are you going to do about it? It's what are we going to do about it to hold each other accountable? And I think we did that across the board from, making landlords accountable to safety for their residents by investing in their buildings, enforcing code, enforcing other cleanup initiatives, whether if it's overgrowth and graffiti and debris and trash in public right-of-ways. And also, we brought on this chief who's very forward-thinking, the police chief, who knows a lot on traditional policing, and he's kind of really stepped it up on that front, but also thinks outside the box when it comes to community partners and collaborations to help navigate, the social determinants of health disparities that might exist in neighborhoods. And that, I would say, has really built a lot of pride, a new sense of pride.
Absolutely.
And really, it's that turns the community around, because with no pride, I have no community. So as more people start feeling good about their city, the more they start contributing and investing. And so that's the direction we're going right now.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think a lot of people need to understand it's a partnership between
That's right.
The residents who live there and the government who runs the city, you have to come together to make your community better. Whether it's Holyoke, West Springfield, Chicopee, pick whatever, even a small town like Beckett, it doesn't matter. But the government and the people have to come together to make the community better. And to your point, I think the residents of Holyoke over the course of the last number of years have really seen what the future holds and are working diligently to make it a better community.
Yeah, before I came on board, there was a lot of talk about old Holyoke versus new Holyoke. We had a lot of people who were born and raised in the city and felt like they were the most authentic version of Holyoke. And then you had a lot of new folks that came in who embraced our community, and there was a little bit of divide for a while. And that doesn't exist today.
That's great.
I feel it always warms my heart to see folks who I've seen divided for a very long time on issues as they appear, come around and have supported some initiatives and objectives I brought forward. And we're seeing more people coming together as neighbors to tackle issues, opposed to, hey, that's not my problem. It's more what's in it for me. Forget about you, which is, the opposite of what community really means.
Right. You bring up a very good point. We are up on our first commercial break, but there are challenges facing the city of Holyoke. We'll get to that when we come back.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry. This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Welcome back, everyone, to this edition of InFocus. Across the desk from me today is Holyoke Mayor Joshua Garcia. Mayor Garcia, thank you for joining me. Just before we went to break, we talked a lot about the great things that have happened to Holyoke over the course of the last few years, few decades. But every city has its challenges in front of it. One of the things I want you to help clarify today is the issue about Holyoke being either is or is not a sanctuary city. So, first of all, what is a sanctuary city? How does a community become a sanctuary city? And then, secondly, is Holyoke a sanctuary city?
Well, that first question is a good question. I haven't really come around to understand sanctuary city because there is no legal definition of what a sanctuary city is. A lot of what we do in government is managed by some sort of laws that exist somewhere, whether if it's federal, mass general law, through the Commonwealth, and our own local ordinances. Those are our shared commitments if we're going to coexist as neighbors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's nothing in our charter, nothing in our city ordinances, nothing in mass general law that defines sanctuary cities and how a community becomes one. And so because of that, I publicly came out and said, we're not a sanctuary city because I don't know what it is. There's no legal definition for it.
So this governing council body hasn't voted for the city to be a sanctuary city?
So that's the thing. So because there, and obviously, a lot of what happens at the federal level has an impact locally, and folks start a lot of chatter, a lot of conversations going on, and obviously there's a very real concern that's happening across our country when it comes to what ICE is doing under this administration. And so I reissued an executive order that was actually put together by my predecessor. Again, in this executive order, it says nothing about sanctuary cities, but it does have a clear directive to our Holyoke Police Department, what we shouldn't be doing under the eyes of the law, what we shouldn't be and should be doing under the eyes of laws when it comes to, civil arrest of detainee that might be here undocumented.
Right. And I have to imagine Holyoke is probably no different than any other community where you rely on state federal aid so that moniker of sanctuary city just puts a target on your back. So, for either, federal ICE agents coming to town or loss of federal money or state money. So to come out and say you're not a sanctuary city really helps the city of Holyoke.
Yeah, so it's tricky. It's very tricky. But yes, I there's a lot of in the debate right now. There's so much noise happening, and my biggest concern as mayor is attracting any attention that we don't want that harms our our most vulnerable people. And we haven't had an issue, thank goodness, knock on wood, where ICE has came in and taken families or ripping families apart in the city of Holyoke. And so, really quickly, I had to make sure that folks understood that we're not a sanctuary city, and it's not at all because of the debate of what people think and feel about being a sanctuary city, but instead, there's nothing that legally exists that determines if we're a sanctuary city.
Okay.
In fact, we took it a step further and said everything we do here is under the confinements of laws. Like the Holyoke Police Department, any police department for that matter, it's not their job to do the work of another department. For example, my building commissioner enforces laws too. I don't expect my police department to go do the building commissioner's job, right? And also, there's a lot of fine walking on a fine line as to like messing with people's civil liberties. And so, what we're doing in Holyoke is we're enforcing laws. And the argument behind this administration's point about cities that are claiming to be a sanctuary city, there's no legal backing behind it. And so it's irrelevant, especially in the city of Holyoke.
So let's move on to the next big topic that's happening in your city. It's about financial concerns and, the state withholding revenues or monies that are allowed to the city. Explain to me what's going on there.
Yeah, so there's this has been going on for 20 years. If you read every annual audit that was done in the city of Holyoke between now and the last 20 years, the same deficiencies, material weaknesses are identified in those audit reports. And really what it comes down to is just timely reporting to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts when you're completing your annual audits, and also timely reconciliation of the books.
Okay.
So City of Holyoke,
is there a stumbling block there that you're not able to report timely enough?
Right. Well, right now it's the way the system is designed. So the way the system is designed right now in the City of Holyoke, it doesn't matter. The responsibility currently in the current framework falls on the treasurer's office, and you'll see that these deficiencies are coming out of the treasurer's office. And we've had professional treasurers in the past. There's a lot of talk from counselors about appointing an expert treasurer into the role. This systematically, expert or not, the system is designed so that whoever's in there is going to fail. We're not. It's like we're chasing our tail.
But isn't the state recommendation to? Well, let me back up a second. Yeah. Do you have a treasurer?
We do have a treasurer, and so you're aware, like it's not black and white. Municipal finance is complicated.
Oh my God,
it's always very difficult. And I've been around for a while. My time in Blandford, now in Holyoke, and I'm still trying to figure out municipal finance. It's tricky.
People think it's really easy, but it's not.
We do have a city treasurer. There is this weird rumor going around town that myself and the council president put the city treasurer there. The city treasurer's elected by the people. I didn't put him there.
So it's an elected position in Holyoke.
Well, this is the last elected treasurer we have, because in January we had a special election to change our charter to make it from elected to appointed, and that passed.
Okay.
So coming February, that'll be in effect.
Okay.
But there are a lot of
February
steps.
2026. You will have to appoint a treasurer, but you have one in place now.
We have one in place now. And we can appoint one. We can go through a process. We can appoint a treasurer. But my point is that if we put somebody in there in that framework, whether the current one who's really good, he's not he's been around for a little bit, or let's say I find an expert treasurer in some community somewhere. Again, systematically, the framework of our system, the way it's designed, it puts there's too much for one person to try to keep up with on their own, because it's not just reconciliation work.
Right.
It's you're doing tax title issues. You're meeting regularly with the public for folks that are falling behind in payment of their taxes. You're working collaboratively with other departments on other issues that might involve a certain property where the treasurer needs to be there. They handle payroll,
right?
Payroll for the whole city, including the school department.
Right.
That department is responsible for payroll for every city employee. There's a lot of moving parts with that. It's certainly gotten more complex for us to continue to operate within the current framework. So we need to evolve. And so this is something that we campaigned on, and coming in, I've been working on this for 3.5, going on 4 years, trying to introduce a chief administrative financial officer, CAFO, into our city, bringing on board a comptroller, kind of reorganizing who's responsible for what. So that
if you're able to move to that level that you're trying to achieve, are those elected positions? Are they appointed positions? Or
they're all appointed.
Okay.
So, for months we've been we call it the Municipal Finance Modernization Act. It's our own version. It's a bill that we brought forward to the council to make all these systemic changes.
Okay.
And the council has been negotiating terms of this bill for months. And now we're at an impasse at the moment because you need 2/3 vote, and we're 1 vote shy of getting these things passed. Now, the minority control of the council, it's a little confusing on where their position is because, you got one councilor in particular that says he's for and introduces new reforms that have nothing to do with what's been negotiated. And so
kind of sets everything back.
Kind of flip-flops a little bit in his position. And it's just, it's hard to manage in that environment because it's too much, it creates too much uncertainty. Meanwhile, you have the state knocking on your door saying, hey, where's the audit? How come your reconciliations aren't done? So we're building an airplane as we fly it. And but with all that being said, our financial state, the state of the city is strong. We have money to pay our bills. Vendors are getting paid. People are still getting paid. Our schools are open. Trash is still going to get picked up. Police and fire is going to show up.
All there.
There's no, and a big reason for that because the state, the Commonwealth has the power to withhold local aid if you're not completing your. They've withheld local aid multiple times under even previous administrations, and then they'll let it go. The treasurer has built up enough strong cash reserves to gap fill that when that happens.
Okay.
And so that puts Holyoke in a strong position to get through the iceberg. And when local aid is released,
got that cushion.
It's replenished, and then the whole game starts over. But we want to move away from that practice. It's not a good place to be. It's a good interim kind of gap fill to take care of uncertainty when it happens, but we want to get us in a stronger position. We need to strengthen our controls, and that includes reforming our charter and our ordinances and how we manage our resources.
Fantastic. We're up on our second commercial break. We're here with Mayor of Holyoke, Joshua Garcia. We'll be right back after this.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry. This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Welcome back to the 22 News Plus studio for this edition of InFocus. Across the desk from me today is Holyoke Mayor Joshua Garcia. Mr. Mayor, thank you again for joining me. We've covered a lot of ground today. There's one last item I want to talk about, and it's one of those things in local government that people probably don't pay too much attention to, but they really should, and that is the Office of Planning and Economic Development, which is a position that Aaron Vega will be vacating the end of the year to move to the Economic Development Council of Western Mass. How important is that role to the city of Holyoke?
Well, I have to say, Pat, there's a lot of things in local government people don't pay attention to that they should be. And that position is critical. First of all, we're very happy for Aaron Vega. I would be lying to you if it's a loss for us, because let me tell you, the Western Mass Economic Development Council is a critical regional organization, and the fact that Aaron is leaving Holyoke to pursue work there is a big win for Holyoke and a lot of communities in the region. So I'm excited about that. That role is critical because there's a lot of moving parts in the city of Holyoke when it comes to expanding our tax base and trying to bring in new growth, new businesses, whether if you're a small mom and pop or if you're a large industry trying to move your a startup company trying to move your business in the city or whatever the case might be. And then you have all sorts of tourism activity. You have different cultural related events, people coming in from the outside into our city. So you're managing a lot. And every function of our government's complicated. It's designed to be a bottom-up organization, and every function, there's a lot of overlap, but no one function is responsible to the other one. And they're all important parts to the growth of any business that comes to the city, whether if you're trying to get a permit, a certificate of inspection through your building department, or your fire department's also involved. And then you have the Board of Health that gets involved if you're selling food, or then you got a license board involved.
There's so many different elements.
So many different parts. And so for any business coming in, you have to kind of navigate that environment, and it gets extremely complicated. And so Aaron's office, that whole office that he oversees, you got the planning board and their responsibilities reviewing zoning changes. And so that whole, OPED is the acronym, Office of Planning and Economic Development. He oversees kind of like that cross facilitation to get folks to the end goal, which is, whatever it is that they're trying to achieve that contributes to the city's economy one way or another. So, it's a very important position that helps streamline and kind of helps create that business-friendly atmosphere when you're removing barriers. And now
the fewer barriers you have in place,
time is money.
Exactly.
Time is money.
Because those businesses can get up and running, contribute to local tax rolls and so forth. So it just helps the city.
There's always, in any local government, you can talk to any mayor. There's a lot of bottlenecking that can happen. There are barriers. A lot of money being spent at that process. So a lot of investors say, I'm not going to I'm staying away from this community. I'm going to go to that community instead.
Right.
And depending on how well that municipality has their football team, right, will determine how efficient they can get folks to what it is that they're trying to achieve. And so Aaron is the quarterback of that football team at City Hall.
So will you be doing a national search, more of a regional search, so that, and I say regional because you get someone who knows the area, someone who knows the economy of Western Mass?
I have no preference, whether if it's internal and external. We will be posting the position soon. And I welcome anybody that thinks that they have the qualifications or the skill set that I'm looking for to help achieve our objectives. There is a residency requirement, so you'll have to move into the city. And so that limits the pool of candidates. And so, and just so I'm sharing with you, Patrick, for anybody that's watching at home, I'm not looking for the subject area expert on economic development. I need someone to be just as familiar, because we have staff in the office that are the subject area experts.
Right.
At City Hall, I need not only that I need the visionary that can be my right-hand person in trying to project out what our vision is and attract attention into our community, but I really need if I need a subject area expert of anything, is internal.
Okay.
It's understanding
how government operates, because a lot of times folks will come in from the outside, and if they've never done this before, it's like we're re-educating everybody. You got to come in. The person has to embrace it for what it is and say, okay, how can I help make this better? And even work with me to introduce ideas to restructure if we have to restructure. But the framework is what it is. It's not gonna. You can't consolidate everything and make it you can do your best to facilitate. Right.
And so that person coming in has to embrace it for what it is and just be really good at developing relationships with departments and getting the system to flow the way it needs to.
Fantastic. Mayor Garcia, our time is up, but I cannot thank you enough for joining me today. Hopefully you'll come back. We can have additional conversations in the future.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.